yourself settled. I know you're going to want to take some notes with Dr. Valerie Miles tonight. It's going to be awesome learning. Super excited about this, and welcome. Welcome to our event. We'll go over just a couple of things right before we get started, but I know everybody's starting to pop on now, Lauren, so we might have to just go over the basics of muting. Here we go. And I'll do some background stuff. Okay, Lauren, you want to put music back on or no? You want to keep us chatting? Okay, I'm going to set it so all participants mute upon entry. So that way we don't have to worry about them popping in. When the numbers get really large, it does take a second for them to get muted, just so you know. But we're excited that you're on. Welcome, welcome. Okay, good. The numbers are going to start filling up, and I'm sure on Facebook as well. Lauren is probably watching Facebook as we get started here. Hey, everybody. All right. We are working to keep everybody muted as nicely as possible. Welcome, welcome. We're going to get ready to get started. All I'm going to do real quick, Cheryl, is just go over just some little basics here. For those of you who missed it, we want to make sure that you guys have the best possible experience here. So if you're on Zoom watching with us, if you've got movement in the background or you're eating, or please don't go into the bathroom or anything like that. Remember, if your camera's on, we can see you. So we just want to make sure that this is a great experience for everyone. When there's movement in your background, what it does is it pulls from the bandwidth, and that causes some buffering. So we just want to make sure that it's a clean video. You guys can hear Dr. Valerie Miles tonight. It's going to be a great event. I'm going to be really quiet, as well as keeping you all quiet by keeping you muted. So I'm going to turn this over to Lauren, Cheryl, and we'll get started.
Okay, I think, do I take it from here?
Yep, it's spotlighted you now. You're good.
Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone and to our evening. I think we really are hearing people checking in from all over the world, as Australia and Hawaii and Canada and all across the US. So for those of you who may be joining us for the first time tonight, I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Cheryl Cortez. I'm a marketing director with the Juice Plus Company, and I've had that honor and pleasure and happiness and prosperity now for over 33 years. And so as we come together as a unit, and many people tonight have helped bring this event together, and we appreciate those, and especially the speakers who come to us from various parts of the country and the world to share their information, their needs, do that out of the generosity of their time and their information and their experience. And so I'm going to turn this first segment over to Maura Daniels, who's going to introduce Dr. Valerie Miles to you tonight. And I'm going to invite you to really listen carefully and just maybe look for those 2 or 3 things that you would want to not only highlight as far as things that you will remember from this presentation, but also that you might want to share with others. So Maura, your turn.
Thank you, Cheryl. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here tonight. As I grew my business, I followed Dr. Valerie Miles all over New England, bringing guests and friends and customers and prospects. She is an amazing speaker, and you're in for such a treat. So have your pen and paper, because you're going to want to take copious notes. Dr. Miles graduated magna cum laude the Clemson University in 1987 and earned her MD degree from the Medical University of South Carolina in 1991, and completed her pediatric training at the University of Utah in 1995. Dr. Miles is doubly board certified, both in pediatrics and integrative medicine. And that's going to be important when you hear the rest of her bio. In her first practice in Colorado, she was introduced to the concept of integrative medicine, blending the best of modern and holistic scientific worlds together with a strong focus on good nutrition. Dr. Miles found much more success in helping families stay well and get well and stay well by practicing this way. She's honored to have impacted thousands of families, speaking on these topics all over the United States or North America, actually, since 2007. Since 2020, Dr. Valerie Miles was so bold. She followed her passion and to bring these years of experience to a wider world in person with her direct primary care, Thrive Well Pediatrics. And she has thrivewellpediatrics.com, which is on Facebook and Instagram. And I was so intrigued, Dr. Miles, by your title. You are, your primary care provider is you. And I want you to tell me more about that. And how can we be our own primary care providers? We're not doctors. And why should we think about that? I'm so curious.
Well, thank you, Maura, and thank you everyone for inviting me to share, because I love this topic. I've been telling my patients for the last probably 15 years at least that you're the primary care provider. I'm the secondary care provider. You're the one that knows yourself and your body the best. And I'm the next level when you need more expertise, right? And yearly physicals so that we can screen for things and all of that. But it's really interesting. I'm going to share my screen. When you really look at the origin of the word, it's all about insurance. So the way primary care started, sorry, let me get, where is my talk? That would be good, right? There we go. So when you look at what primary care really was originally, it was this effort by the World Health Organization to help people globally be healthier, because there wasn't a lot. I mean, you can think of all the places in the world, right, where people live miles and miles and miles from any kind of civilization, and just that effort to try and help health all around the world. And so that's great. And I would never I love my primary care provider. Who loves their primary care provider, right? And so I would never want to give that up. I don't want to be my own doctor. And you shouldn't want to be your own doctor either, but you are your own healthcare system. Like, you're the beginning of that. So primary care providers began to become this name that insurance companies would look at us as that first level, sort of that entry into the healthcare system, the person that you see first. And so all around the world, that was great. We were kind of already doing that in the United States. And what's happened to us that's different, and maybe many other countries, but particularly us that's different, is that we've got way more specialists now than we have primary care providers. And that would be fine if all the visits needed to go, 3/4 of the visits needed to go there, but that's not how it is. Most of the visits, or the majority, are still with primary care providers. So we actually have too few primary care providers and too many specialists in a lot of cases. And I have tons of doctors all over the country that are friends of mine, and I would never knock them down from specialty to primary care. In fact, most people go into specialties because they don't have the skills or the comfort level to do what we do, which is to help people customize, and try and help them with taking care of their family and themselves the best, right? It takes time, it takes conversation, and not everybody, that's their wheelhouse. But when we think about what a primary care provider is, really, it's only called that because of the insurance system, in my view here, the first contact with the healthcare system. But where does your health start? Your health starts way before that. So truly, you're the primary care provider, and I'm the secondary care provider. And then the specialists in the hospital and the ER doc and the surgeon and all those people are the tertiary care providers. We've got those 3 levels, right? So there's that big disconnect for us. And so really, I think of our primary care as this, a primary care provider like me, who takes care of children and their family, is really kind of holding that space for them, understanding them. You want a great relationship with that person, but they are not in your life. They are not with you day in and day out in your home, seeing how hard it is to get your family to eat healthy food, for example, or whatever your obstacle is. You're the one that knows that. And so when you think of yourself as your own healthcare system starting, and you as a primary care provider, you level your health up so much. You don't wait until you can get in to see your doctor, or wait until something bad happens with your health to say, hey, now I've got this ache or pain, or now I've got this shortness of breath, or now I've got some problem. You're actually thinking beforehand, how can I make myself and my family the healthiest even before I go see the doctor, or to limit the number of visits? Wouldn't it be great to just have only well care, going once a year or so, right? That's the goal. So in order to do that, you can't wait for your doctor to tell you what to do in one visit a year. You have to have those tools all year long. Does that make sense? So that's why I say I'm the secondary care provider, you're the primary care provider. So what I want to share tonight is some tools about that, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But so that you can walk away with, what's the one thing that I can do? Don't be overwhelmed and try to do everything at once, but just look at the next thing you can do to improve your knowledge, and then to put that into action. When you decide what it is, then take some action steps. It's always best if you had a buddy for that. So if there's not somebody in your family that can help you, then make sure that you find a buddy, a friend that wants to also do that, because action steps sometimes are hard, right? And so what happened to us in the intervening years between when primary care started to be an actual word, is the internet and technology and advancements, and all those things are great, but do you find you ever get sucked into the Google vortex? I know I do, and hours can go by, sometimes when I'm really interested in a topic. The problem is that that's not always truth there. So what's really great is to have your own doc to bounce things off of. This new practice that I have that Maura mentioned is called direct primary care. And if you go and look at direct primary care online, I'm going to ask you to put it into Google, you will find that there's a map of the United States where doctors just like me and what I'm going to explain are. So direct primary care. And what that means is that there are no layers in between you and your physician. So right now I have no employees. My partner and I take all messages, texting, calling, emails, everything directly from our patients. And they know we have to kind of triage things and answer in turn. But I have such a closer relationship with my families. I've been to many of their houses because we do home visits. Not every doc with direct primary care does, but I understand them. And if I don't, then I just ask them directly, and we can text and exchange information. That way we can do video visits. That's always been embedded in direct primary care. And we can have unlimited visits in the office by them paying a membership fee, just like you would to your gym. And we think about paying the gym monthly so that we can exercise. Like, you get that that's a part of your health. But what if you could do that with your doctor and literally have your doctor in your pocket, so that you didn't get it sucked into the Google vortex, right? I always say, Dr. Miles is in your pocket. You don't need Dr. Google. So this form of, this model of providing primary care has grown so much in the last 10 years that it's like an exponential curve. It was about 10 practices 10 years ago, and now it's closer to 1,500 in the country. So you'll see that map and you'll be able to find someone if you're interested in that. I think that's a number one way, is to have an expert in your pocket that you can trust their information is the truth. When you get a hold of them. So the point is that you're the one who cares the most, and you live in a country like I do, and all of us do, with basically a broken healthcare system. We have this runaway cost. I could spend a whole hour just talking about this, which unfortunately is not very transparent yet. So if one hospital does a knee replacement and Medicare allows them to charge $2,000, that hospital can actually charge you or your insurance company $40,000. There's this huge disconnect and much padding in the system right now. And unfortunately, we're suffering for that, all of us. So you have to start, you make your choices, you pick your doctor very carefully, and then you really can be the beginning of your own healthcare system. And I will skip on down. But the thing about health is that you can read a million things about what helps you be healthy, but let's really look at what really makes you healthy. And that bottom green piece, 50% of it is healthy behaviors, sort of the social thing. What, you know, when I lived in Colorado, I was riding up and down mountains on a mountain bike because kind of everybody did that. So I wanted to learn that. We were outside all the time. We were winter, summer, spring, fall, always exercising, and pretty much ate pretty healthy. That's where I learned a lot of these things that I integrate into my practice as a holistic or integrative physician, was just experiencing it in Colorado. And who knew that 50% of what I was contributing to my health was those behaviors. Part of it's the environment you live in, and do you live downtown in a city or out in fresh air? You know, those things are important. And about 20% is your genetics, only 20%. So just because you have a gene for high blood pressure doesn't mean that you have to have high blood pressure. It's how you turn those genes on and off. And that is impacted by environment and healthy behaviors. So really 85, 90% of what makes us healthy is not medical care. But in our system, 88, 90%, let's say, of what we spend is on healthcare. So that little tiny band down there of green of 4% spending on healthy behaviors doesn't really match up. And so if we can just start increasing that and decreasing what we spend on healthcare, when we focus on healthy behaviors and we become our primary care provider for ourselves and starts with us, guess what? We prevent a lot of things that we would later spend money on. Those sort of like bypass is a great heart bypass from heart attacks and things like that we can literally prevent. We can especially if we've got diabetes as an adult, most of the time, we can do things that help us get healthier and lose the diagnosis of diabetes and lose all the bad things that could happen by virtue of that. So hopefully I've convinced you why you need to be your own primary care provider. And then we'll talk about how. Okay, 3 things. If you want to write these 3 topics down, you'll see them again. If I go too fast, you'll see them again. But the 3 things to do is, number 1, maximize your core 6. Number 2, mind your messengers. And number 3, mend your microbiome. Okay, so let's do maximize your core 6. Most people know that they should exercise, right? We can find lots of details about this, but getting out there every day can prevent all kinds of more long-term health problems, chronic health problems. And really our system isn't made to really help chronic health problems. We're really good at acute, aren't we? We're good at, like, I am so grateful for our healthcare system because I know that if I got into an accident and I was hurt, that I would get the best care, maybe the best care in the world, right? And I have had emergency surgeries twice that I know saved my life, and I'm forever grateful for that. And so that's the acute care, but the chronic really has to do with that green part, the healthy behaviors, exercise, and really just 20 or 30 minutes of cardio, which in my case, I used to run, but now my knee doesn't allow me to do that anymore. So I walk, and it's the same distance. It just takes me longer. It's the same effect on your health. So I walk as fast as I can. So I'm a little bit short of breath, and that's cardio, and that's okay. Even if you can only walk up and down your driveway right now, that's exercise for you. And then you'll build up and build up and build up. I certainly have been in that position when I've gone, down with major surgeries and that sort of thing. I'm sure there are many people on here that understand that. And then remember, you're supposed to sleep. We have a hard time with this, don't we? With all our screens keeping us awake. The light from your screen tells your brain it's daytime. So you have to turn those screens off and dim your lights about an hour, at least a half an hour before you want to go to bed. This is really important for children and teenagers too. Because we as adults need 7 to 9, this says 7 to 8, but even up to 9 is okay, hours of sleep. If you get less than that or more than that, you've done your body harm. So on a consistent basis, try and get this many, and screens have a lot to do with that. And then manage your stress. However you can do that. It may even be like, whenever I give a talk like this, I want to do a really good job. I want you to get the message that I'm being the messenger for, right? but it's a little stressful, right? So I feel my heartbeat. Whenever I feel my heartbeat kick up, I have a way to take a belly breath. Like, just Google belly breath or diaphragmatic breathing. It is the quickest calming thing you could ever imagine. So have your little tools to manage your stress. Some people meditate like this. Prayer or quiet time and just listening to your breathing is just as good as actually meditating, because it brings up these anti-stress molecules in your body, which are really good for you. And as you know, most doctors' visits, especially to primary care providers, are for stress-induced problems, probably about 75%, which is crazy, right? So we have to manage that ourselves. Drink enough water. You know, I try to drink 2 or 3 liters a day, which is 60 to 100 ounces, be in there somewhere as an adult. And then the kids, we just divide down based on their weight. And, you know, toxins are really increasing in the environment. It's just phenomenal, scary, phenomenal. So you make that choice as your own primary care provider that you're going to use safer products. One of the things is fragrances. That's chemicals. And it's, unfortunately, you breathe it in it and your body has to deal with it. And there's a threshold that you get to that if you feel like you're sensitive to fragrances, it's because you've got too many of those chemicals that aren't getting out, toxins in your body. So you can make the decision to just say, okay, I'm going to start trying things that don't have fragrances, unless it's natural, like a lot of these organic companies put out laundry detergent and so forth. Those are organic, so that's okay. But limit the toxins in your life and your families. And then lastly, I leave this last because it's probably the hardest, eat real food. Well, everybody who's selling a food product is trying to make you feel like it's healthy for you, because that's the thing. But is it? You have to know how to research that. So here's the thing. Real food is something that's growing on the planet that we can go and pick and eat, like apples, right? Just whole food, plants, and even animals are real food, right? So what's not real food is something that's in a bag or a box that's processed that then does not rot. So real food should rot. And that's kind of gross. Obviously, we want to eat it before it rots. But processed food often has preservatives and chemicals most of the time, unless it's a healthy food in a bag or box, that keeps it from rotting. Think about French fries. If you've ever sat outside in a outside area for a fast food joint, you can see French fries that have been on the ground forever, and the birds are trying to eat them. But they look like the day they were made, and they might be months or weeks or years old. I actually have French fries that I've kept for 8 or 9 years, and they look pretty much the same as the day they were born, and you wouldn't know till you touched it that it was hard as a rock. So that is never going to do anything good for your body. It's not going to nourish you at all, whereas real food will. And sometimes it can be pretty overwhelming. So you just want to just pick one that you know you could do better at, and do 1 month of getting better and better at that. And then pick another one and do a month of getting better and better at that one. And before you know it, 6 months go by and you're way ahead with your primary care that you're giving yourself, making your body healthier. Okay, so that one was maximize your core 6. Now mind your messengers. Messengers are actually nutrients. So the way that our body can tell what to do and where to put different things is by the nutrients the food contains. So when you look at nutrients, they're either macro or they're micro. And macronutrients are important, right? Protein, carbs, fat, those 3 things. And you've got all that on that plate with the meat. The meat we think of as protein. The carbs are the potato, and the fat is in both, right? And those things are important, but you have to think about the source. What's the healthiest source that you can have for protein, fat, and carbs? Would you say this plate is that? Maybe not. But is it okay to have every once in a while have a healthy piece of grass-fed beef? Absolutely. It actually isn't the healthiest diet to be vegan. And that's no offense to the vegans out there, but when we're looking at science and prevention and the healthiest people, It's more the
Yeah.
Mediterranean diet, which contains very little red meat, but is more like fish, lots of fruits and vegetables, olives, olive oil, avocados, those kinds of healthy fats, and then proteins from the fish and maybe some chicken every once in a while and that kind of thing. So I could do a whole hour talk on that, so I won't either. But then when you think about micronutrients, that's all the vitamins, all the phytonutrients, plant nutrients that we're meant to have in this rainbow of colors that you see here. Every single color in fruits and vegetables has a different set of micronutrients. So you need to eat all different kinds as often as possible. I am a pediatrician, so I see lots of children, and we talk a lot about picky eaters. Picky eaters can start forming very early on. Even as a toddler, right after 1 is where it tends to start. And that's because they're not that hungry. They're not growing that fast anymore. So they just don't feel like eating. But if you put something really yummy in front of them, then they will eat it. Like these, these treats right here, really all we need to eat for is to have fuel for our bodies. And so back in the day when all we had was the roots that we could dig up and the berries that we could pick, and we didn't have meat for a long time, it was still fueling our bodies. It's just that these things taste really good. So really early on, children will gravitate more towards sweet, because if we had a sweet fruit, that would energize us for a long time. And by the way, the fruit all gets ripe at one time. So we better hurry up and eat it back in the day, or we might starve for the winter. We need to put fat on so we can, like the bears, survive the winter, right? So just remember, food is more than fuel. And the messengers you're sending your body, you want to be the healthiest as possible. The problem here is that there's some foods that create inflammation, and there's some foods that decrease inflammation. Inflammation's not good. This is like if you cut your hand and your wounds started getting infected, you would realize it because it turns red and it hurts. That's obvious inflammation, but chronic low-grade inflammation is actually not painful. You can't feel it at all. So you don't know it's happening, but it's the cause and the key factor in onset of disease of every kind that we've studied. There's inflammation under there. So heart disease is not just your cholesterol clogging up your arteries. It's actually inflammation that attracts the cholesterol to try and soothe it, and then it clogs up the arteries. So if you go to the cause, it's inflammation. So we want to eat foods that are anti-inflammatory, not so inflammatory. The plate with the steak and the fries, those are inflammatory foods because it's fried, and red meat by itself is, so fried food, red meat, sugar, things like this are all inflammatory. You can look up anti-inflammatory diet and you'll be able to avoid most of those foods that are inflammatory. Okay, so number 3, so we've got the third is mend your microbiome. And most people have heard of the microbiome by now. It's definitely the buzzword. Thousands and thousands and thousands of scientific studies have been done over the last, say, 10 years, trying to figure out this new organ called the microbiome that lives in and on us. It's basically all the bacteria and different organisms that take along a ride on us. And we have trillions of them. We have more of them in terms of cells, 10 times more than we have of us. 10 times more cells of bacteria and of the microbiome than we have of human cells, thousands of species. And it turns out 150 times more genes of theirs than of ours. So it turns out that they're kind of running the show. They're really important. And so it's important to keep the microbiome in balance. There are good guys and there are bad guys. There's the kinds that support our health and the kinds that take us down. And this is the secret behind picky eaters. So whether you became a picky eater as a child or you became a picky eater as an adult, if you are one, it's the same reason. So you'll find that if you're a picky eater, you tend to like simple carbs, like sugar and breads and pastas and things like that. Fruits, clear sweet stuff like cake and cookies and things like that's what you kind of really want if you had a choice. And if you can reduce the amount that you eat of those things, then you will get more of those good bacteria, because the bacteria in our gut send a message to our brain of what we want to eat. So I grew up with, from my elders, this idea that people who were overweight, this is way back in the day, in the 70s, there weren't nearly as many people that struggled with overweight as there are now, that it was a matter of willpower. And if they would just start eating differently, then they would be able to lose weight. And we find that's not true. Guess what? Because the microbiome, the bacteria that there's certain bacteria strains that are associated with being overweight. And so you don't want to feed those guys. You want to feed the other guys. And so you have some power over that. That's not just willpower. And they're telling your brain what to eat. And you want that message to stop so that you might feel like eating more of these kinds of things. So the best way to handle your microbiome and mend it or keep it healthy is to eat plant-based. And don't hear vegetarian when I say that. That's mostly plants, right? And so that means, just like I described the Mediterranean diet, the other things in there. But this literally starts about this age when you see what there is in the hand of this big brother is a little melt, I always call them melts because they just melt instantly in your mouth. And there's a sweet taste to that. And it's just carbs. It's just simple carbs, really. And so then that baby begins eating those things, and it would want that more than it might want the green bean or the piece of broccoli, because that's not naturally super sweet. And then wants more of that. So then that goes down and feeds those bacteria that, unfortunately, I would call the bad guys. They're not helping our health. And then they send a message to the baby's brain to eat more of that. And then they say, no, I don't want the broccoli. Because lots of babies will start out eating anything, and then they just turn. So you actually have the power here, even this early on, to feed the bad guys or feed the good guys. And the good guys love something like this that's plant-based. So your vegetables, your whole grains, your salmon, and then maybe a piece of fruit for dessert, like that. Whereas the bad guys, I'm not saying never eat a donut, but the pure sugar feeds them directly, and also yeast in your body, which can have some negative effects. So you have the power. So since they're so important, let's focus on the fruits and vegetables. Experts agree, and so did my grandmother. She was always asking, if I said I had a tummy ache, she said, did you eat your vegetables today? And then she'd say, did you poop? Because constipation is a problem from not eating enough fruits and vegetables, right? We need our fiber, and we need all this delicious color as well. And the other problem is that we're under a lot heavier load than generations before us of what we need to get out of our body. Like I said before, environmental toxins are increasing and food quality is decreasing. All the additives that are going into food, unfortunately, are also toxins to our body. And I've got myself in the way of this. Did you know? Today's mass produce packs less of a nutritional punch. So there are some varieties of fruits and vegetables that have even 40% less of their nutritional content than they did years ago. And that's part of why we don't need 5 a day or 3 a day anymore. We need 7 to 13 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. And we need them as ripe as possible. When they're transported long distances, they're picked before they get ripe. You can tell the difference between a tomato that maybe you get at the store that's ripened. It's not ripening if it's disconnected from the plant, it's rotting. So it's more mealy, and it just doesn't have a very good texture compared to one you might pick off your plant that you're growing in your yard and eat that. Totally different taste because it's full of nutrition at the end of ripening. That's why. So we need that many more fruits and vegetables as close to ripe as possible. And if you're an athlete, or I always say if you have a lot of stress, then you need even more, because you have more harm in your body from the stress of either exercise or just mental stress. I don't know if anybody's had mental stress for the last year or even their lifetime, but there's been a lot, even more. And so we're always going to have stress. But the reason that we need so many is because it's picked early, transported thousands of miles, and it turns out 90% of us don't even need enough servings. So we are, we're already way behind the 8 ball in terms of feeding the good guys and protecting our own health and being our own primary care provider. And we don't get enough colors typically. Children like this one, she didn't want that green bean, but she might eat carrots, and maybe the two vegetables she likes are carrots and peas, but then she's missing all the other colors, right? The reds and the yellows and all of those greens, you know? So how I handled this before I knew what I know today is, because I was, you know, not educating myself and becoming my own primary care provider, is I just took a vitamin, and I had to take it at night because it made me sick. So 70% of us will try and fill that gap of not eating enough fruits and vegetables with a multivitamin. But the unfortunate thing is there are very, very few nutrients in vitamins. Like this list is a typical multivitamin. It may even have as many as 30, but an apple has 10,000 or more nutrients in it. And so because we know what these are in this multivitamin list, we're able to pick those out and put them artificially, you know, in a lab into a pill. But that's not how it comes in the whole fruit or vegetable. And I didn't learn this in school, all the way through college, all the way through medical school. Didn't learn this for years, so always thought a multivitamin was fine. But there's no way to match nature other than starting with nature. So, and unfortunately, research shows that a lot of isolated vitamins do more harm than good. And there's plenty of research on that beyond this one single article. This list of all the nutrients in the apple would have to go on for like 28 more pages. Really, most of which we don't know what they do, but they are helpers. And I always say the brothers and sisters of the vitamins we know about, they all help each other synergistically. And synergy isn't something you can create in a pill, at least the kind of multivitamin pill that we're used to. So I want to talk about Juice Plus because I was, you know, I would say still understanding and trying to help people eat more fruits and vegetables. We all do as physicians. We want people to eat healthier, but I wasn't having too much luck necessarily on that. And that's about the time, about 16 years ago, I was introduced to Juice Plus. And I want to spend some time talking about this because it's really exactly what we need to fill the gap. The true way to fill the gap is to have as many fruits and vegetables rushing into your body, and all the little thousands of nutrients go exactly where they're needed. And so Juice Plus is unique in that it's made out of only whole fruits and vegetables that are ripened. And it is not a multivitamin, although people call it vitamins. It's not a multivitamin. It's concentrated plants and concentrated whole foods. NSF certified means that it's by a third party is actually shown to have what it's listed on the label is in it, and there are no contaminants. Even professional sports athletes can take Juice Plus because sports NSF certification, you know, you're not going to have a problem with your drug tests and screenings that they have. No GMO. And the most researched nutritional supplement in the world. There are now 40 plus studies for the last 20 plus years on what Juice Plus does in the body. And I'm just going to highlight a couple of areas because this sounds like a really great idea, right? It's like astronaut food. Let's put fruits and vegetables in a capsule. But until you research it, you don't really know if it's a great idea or not, right? So here's what's in Juice Plus. The greens, you can see broccoli, parsley, garlic, carrot, cabbage, kale. I like kale every once in a while, but I don't want to eat it every day. So it makes it an easy way to get those colors in. And then purple, which is the berry blend, raspberry, cranberry, blackberry. Who eats bilberries every day? You might drink pomegranate juice, but then you get a lot of sugar with it, right? Any kind of juice. And for diabetics especially, Juice Plus is wonderful because the sugar is taken out, so you don't have a change in your blood sugar. And then the red is the fruit blend with all of those wonderful ripe fruits, including beets. I love when other people cook me beets, and I'll eat them maybe once every 2-3 weeks, but I don't really want to cook them myself because it's messy. So I appreciate being able to have that gap insurance of the Juice Plus helping me with that. And then there's also an omega blend. Part of the problem with omegas is that they come from, mostly the supplements come from fish. And often a lot of toxins are in the fish that get concentrated down into that capsule. Plus the fish burps are no fun. So what's cool is that the omegas that the fish get concentrated in their bodies actually come from plants. So this is 100% plant-based and really based on algae and things that have rich in omegas, but also are not, don't have the toxins that the fish would have. And it's 100% vegan that way too. And vegans have a hard time getting enough omegas. Thirdly, there are so many shake mixes out there, right? And it's mind-boggling. If you look at most shake mixes, there'll be a warning label for breastfeeding and pregnancy. And that's a little scary. I don't know why that would be okay for everyone. You know, everyone should be cautious of anything with a warning label on it. Our Juice Plus Complete is a plant-based shake mix in these 2 delicious flavors. I have a shake for breakfast. It's great for after exercise, anything like that. And no warning label. Don't need to. It's just plant-based, delicious shake mix with a good level of protein and fiber that really keep your blood sugar steady. That's wonderful. And so these studies have been, don't take my word for it. You can find all of this online or through the person who invited you if you're a guest. But academic centers around the world have studied Juice Plus because they're so excited to find a way to get people to eat more plant nutrients without actually having to eat a bushel of fruits and vegetables, because people are way more compliant swallowing capsules of concentrated plant food than they are eating all of that. And so they've been able to study against placebo, which is gold standard research, how this actually affects your body, because it's not just a good idea if science shows how it helps you. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that may impact your health and would be the best to impact your health. But understand that Juice Plus is not a treating or curing anything. It's just as if you're eating fruits and vegetables. It's simply healthful plant-based nutrition that's highly concentrated into a capsule and supported by over 20 years of clinical research. Everybody's experience varies because maybe as I started taking Juice Plus 16 years ago, skeptical, not sure, wanted to be the guinea pig for my patients, forced my family to also eat it because they definitely didn't eat enough fruits and vegetables. I didn't expect to feel anything. I thought I had it, dialed in. I thought I ate enough fruits and vegetables. It's just these other people in my house that didn't. And I was going to be a role model for them. And I had my own health experience with that, which was pretty subtle and dramatic at the same time. It took me months or even maybe a year to look back and go, wait a second, that's been so much better. Kind of coincidence since I started Juice Plus, and I was able to test that as my own science experiment. So, but it was subtle and I couldn't feel it. And sometimes you don't see any changes at all, but you're getting that feeding all your cells extra nutrition so that they can function the best. You may already be in good health, but want to preserve that. So let's talk about 2 areas. I'm going to talk about inflammation and the immune system and how that, remember we talked about the anti-inflammatory diet, and when you're minding your messengers, you want to mind that you're getting more anti-inflammatory than inflammatory. This inflammation, this guy is inflammation you can feel, right? But remember, you can't feel the chronic disease inflammation building. So Juice Plus supports healthy inflammatory response. And there are several studies that show that when you start taking Juice Plus after a very short period of time, your inflammatory markers in your bloodstream go down. So that's anything that's like an itis that you would feel would be arthritis, colitis, sinusitis, bronchitis. I could not tell you how many stories, I couldn't tell you how many stories I've heard of people with those chronic conditions improve. And it's just simply flooding their body with more fruits and vegetables. And it's not just stories, because that's backed by the science showing that inflammation markers go down. And then on the immune system side, this is a great example of why you should be your own primary care provider, because your doctor who sees you maybe once a year or twice is not going to be telling you necessarily in advance anything but eat healthy that might help your immune system. But you want your immune system to be strong before the infection comes your way, right? Before the bronchitis is going to start or before the sinus infection starts, so that your defense is already built up, right? So that's how you can do what you do every day matters. And Juice Plus has several studies on the immune system showing, and this was in healthcare workers, how people that are exposed to upper respiratory viruses all the time within the hospital systems, that they miss less work, less number of days missed from work, and helps their immune system cells be more active and a higher number, so that then they have less severe, even if they caught the cold, they are having less severe symptoms. And that's just taking capsules of concentrated plants. Great, easy solution. Not to stop eating fruits and vegetables or have that substitute, because fruits and vegetables have lots of fiber and other things in them that that you would want to also eat. So you still try to eat your 7 to 13 servings, but this gives you that gap insurance. And then one of my last one is one of my favorite studies that the Juice Plus company has run for many years, which is a program called Healthy Starts for Families. And for each adult that has a Juice Plus order for themselves, a child that's 4 and up can have theirs for free. And free is good. It's free up to 4 years running, which saves you a lot of money. And by the way, all the copays that you didn't pay and all the money saved from not buying medicines or needing less of that really can be significant. Over 1 million families have participated. It's really amazing, the numbers here. And there are lots of results. You can also see this online, but most people, the majority of people, both kids and adults, were drinking more water and eating less fast food and junk food and soft drinks, and eating more fruits and vegetables, taking less over-the-counter medicine, visiting the doctor less, missing less school and work. If you could have something simple that would cause that, and the only reason I'm even here is because there are studies showing that that Juice Plus causes these effects in the body and causes these real life experiences. Otherwise, I wouldn't, if there's no science, then we can't really know, right? So it is one way, Juice Plus, to help be your own primary care provider, because remember in your core 6, we talked about eat real food. That's what this is. Picked, ripe, just when you should want all of your food picked and packed into easy to swallow capsules, along with all the ripe fruits and vegetables you're also going to eat. And minding your messengers, this is anti-inflammatory to the max, because plant foods are anti-inflammatory. So you want lots of that going in. And then mending your microbiome. The good guys love fruits and vegetables. You want 80% of your microbiome to be the good guys, and 20% can be the weeds in the garden. That's okay. But you have to feed them. You cannot just take probiotics and expect them to live. You have to feed them too. You have to put the fertilizer down there of the fruits and vegetables every day to keep the probiotics, the good guys, growing. So take that and make one simple change at a time. Give yourself even a month to really lock in that new habit and that new little change, and then go on to the next one. I hope that you've learned some things that can take you through the rest of your life, getting healthier and healthier step by step. And I really appreciate the opportunity to share with you guys.
Valerie, I have been learning from you for a number of years. I think I started a year before you. Taking Juice Plus, and it is a natural, Juice Plus naturally encourages you to be your own healthcare provider, because you start paying attention to everything, how you react, how you eat, how you drink, how you exercise. And so, but this was such a special talk. Thank you so much. And
Good.
thank you for traveling to us. And I can't wait for you to travel again.
Either.
Come to New England and come to dinner at my house, and I promise I'll pamper you like the queen that you should be. So thank you, really, from my heart.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for listening.
Cheryl,
I think I'm next again. Let's see, am I unmuted or?
Yeah, you're good, Cheryl.
Well, first of all, Dr. Valerie Miles, thank you so much. I always not only enjoy hearing you, but I really have to credit yourself and our doctors over the years. I've been consuming Juice Plus. We've had it almost 30 years now, and how blessed we are, because I know I wouldn't know enough about how to take care of my own body if it hadn't been for a lot of the input over these years. How much we've all learned from each other. And certainly, as you said, the science has brought so many physicians to us to support and talk about our products. And so thank you so much. And now we're going to have some fun with folks. If everyone would like to really interact with us and maybe choose one or two or three things that Dr. Valerie Miles said that really spoke to you. Put them in the chat or in the comments if you're on the live Facebook group. And we're going to do some fun things with that as well. As a matter of fact, if you stay with us through the whole program, we have about another 45 minutes to an hour where you'll hear stories of others who have not only loved the product, but also have had great results in sharing it with others from a business standpoint. At the very end of our program, we're going to do a drawing. There will be 4 $50 gift cards. If you're still with us, you'll be in that drawing. So we thought that might be a little fun for everybody tonight, and we look forward to it as well. So now I think what we're going to do, looking at this being a program really to highlight children's health, Moms on a Mission, just all of us who are looking at protecting our family's health, our entire family. We're going to show you a quick video on healthy starts for families.
As a mom, from the first moment that baby's put into your arms, you have this unbelievable emotion of protection. Why not make it the happiest, healthiest life that they can possibly live by giving their body what it's going to need to fuel it through all of these milestones in their lives?
I believe that we have the responsibility to teach our kids how to eat right. The eating habits that you teach them now will stay with them forever. Planning, food shopping, and cooking is labor intensive. So it's really easy to give them what they want, which is pizza, French fries, and hot dogs. But I have to say, it's so important to not take the easy way out.
I want to be a role model for my kids. I want to teach them from a really young age the importance of eating right, because your kids are going to do what you do. You need to lead by example. So we need to make sure that we're making everything so delicious, that it's yummy, and let's try it. And when you can get them growing it, so they start with the seed, they watch it grow, they nurture it just like you nurture them. They want to try it, they want to taste it because it's their baby.
Colorful fruits and vegetables have something called antioxidants in them, and that helps to protect our cells from damage. And then you have amazing dark leafy green vegetables like spinach and kale. They have an incredible amount of nutrition in them. I think it's really hard to get it right. And so with Juice Plus, you're able to bridge the gap and maybe fill in the blanks for the vegetables that you weren't able to get in that day.
I feel if you want to give your kids something really important and really vital, then give them the gift of Juice Plus.
And Juice Plus can be a catalyst too. They started to look at other areas of their lifestyle too. And so what happened is they started to drink more water, they ate less sweets, and they ate less fast food. So I would recommend that you just go and try it, because food matters.
All right. Well, all I have to say is wow. Just wow. I don't know how all that landed with you guys. I mean, I love hearing about our health with our children and how to help our kids have a healthier life, right? But for me, with all that's going on in this big world, learning what we can control in our lives and truly taking responsibility for our family's health, it's inspiring and I feel empowering as a mom. So I just want to say a huge thank you for taking the time to be on tonight and learning more, being open to learning more. There's so much that you could be doing, and you said yes to tonight. So I just want to share that we're a community of people. We're moms, dads, grandparents, professionals, neighbors, and those who just have a heart to serve and help others. And we have all partnered with a company with a heart, the Juice Plus Company. And as a partner, I've been a partner with the company now for 13 years. I couldn't be more proud to align myself with this product, company, and this community. Now, I believe there are no